So for the past thousands of years, the world has found itself in this male-dominated energy. And it's a patriarchy is a system, right? A man can be patriarchal or a man can be matriarchal. A woman can be patriarchal or a woman can be more matriarchal, inclusive. So patriarchy is a system. And during this time, right, before it turned all masculine, the goddesses were deeply honored and worshipped. I studied the work of Dr. Joseph Campbell, and it was part of my spiritual psychology degree, right? And the goddesses and women, and we could talk about this topic for 3 hours easily, but women were revered. Women's intuition was acknowledged. Women's sensitivity was lifted up. Women's power, all things women were honored. And then it wasn't, right? That's a big, long story. But that's where, war was a big driving force. But we live in a system, most every country and continent, most everyone lives under the system of patriarchy. So patriarchy prioritizes men over women. It sees competition as better than collaboration. It views the expression of feelings as wrong, shames people for having needs. One of my coaching clients is a brand new coach, and she's in her 30s, and she's got a whole body of work around the importance of rest. It's so hard for people to do. So it promotes domination, control, objectifying people, especially people who are marginalized, and equating people's value with what they produce. So in short, everything male and masculine is viewed as strong and superior, and all things female and feminine are weak and undesirable. Why on earth is Vicky talking about this on a dating group here? Because I want you to become familiar with a few terms. So what happens is when the whole of society, and it is most of it, it's very, very few societies who are not patriarchal. The price we need to understand the price we pay. So women over time bought into these values and viewed themselves and their truth and their feminine ways of being as less than men. This is called internalized patriarchy. Internalized patriarchy. So I take what even if I can't stand that you minimize me and don't value me, it's almost impossible that some of us haven't internalized that and made our own feelings wrong, made rest wrong, made speaking our truth wrong, and definitely took away our power. It took away our power, and it centered things like, of course, commerce and politics and religion. But let's just talk tonight about dating. It centers, most women inadvertently center their dating experience and their relationships around men. Maybe you're an exception, and I'd like to say, it's a continuum. It's not a black or white thing. It's a continuum where it's like, maybe you center yourself sometimes, maybe you center the man. But what does that mean to center the man? That's what I was talking about before, where your self-talk sounds like, how do I get him to choose me? How do I need to behave to get love? That is the cost of patriarchy. Most of us have this patterning. And a lot of people see I work with on an individual basis. We trace it to their mom, or their dad or their parents, or, a lot of dysfunction is traced back to how you were parented. But especially if your wounds are a lot around your mother, your mom has the disease usually of the not having a great opinion about herself, or not really fully embracing her power. Hey, there are some exceptions, and I'm following these women on Instagram, but a lot of women, learned to let go of their power, not speak their truth, center the man in the relationship. Right. That's the household I grew up in. Most of you, unless you had this radical feminist mom, good for you. That's what most of us saw, right? So here, let's talk about something called decentering men. Decentering men. I believe we're on the leading edge of a revolution around these things. It's starting to be out there in the world. I'm hearing it more and more. And I really think it's a powerful shift the whole world is going through. But let's talk about you and on an individual basis. Decentering men doesn't mean in any way devaluing them. Some people think, oh, well, we'll flip it and then the women will have the power and they'll hold the men down. But no, your power really comes from changing. One way to decenter a man in the pursuit of a man is how, instead of this, how do I get him to choose me? Do I choose him? That's not anti-relationship. That's the foundation of an equal relationship. So, decentering men is the path, actually, to a great partnership, because when we center someone, it costs us ourselves, right? So here's a few things to think about. If my desire to be in a relationship comes from a full self, not a desperate or anxious one, I stop pursuing love from a place of lack. I attract differently from a place of wholeness, from a place of honoring and valuing myself. And that's one of the big shifts I made. Some of you have heard my stories where I showed up on these dates where I literally didn't care. I went from absolute neurotic mess when I first started dating, a wreck where I was anxious, I felt desperate, sadly, sad to say. But when I show up on those dates, you're already one down. You're already several down. All right. So come from desire, not from desperation and anxiety, but from a full self, right? Then a soulmate is a complement to your life, not the completion of your life. And this is something I have to work with a lot of clients with. They literally feel incomplete and unworthy if they cannot find a man. That's sadly in a lot of family cultures and a lot of cultures. So the patriarchy trained women to be chosen. Your opportunity is to choose yourself. Romantic conditioning under patriarchy is waiting, hoping, adjusting yourself, right? We want to move from I'm evaluating, I'm deciding. And I tell you, when I made that shift, everything changed. It took me a couple of years to get there. So decentering men does not mean decentering love. It just means centering yourself first. So your joy, your mission, your friendships. I have a lot of women who I've worked with, a lot, who get into a relationship and their friends start complaining because they absolutely neglect their friendships and and they suffer, right? That's because they're centering the man. Your soulmate cannot find the real you if the real you is hidden. Patriarchy conditions, trains women to perform. Decentering is just about dropping the performance and becoming findable by someone who actually matches you. Right? So a lot of it is mindset, but I wanted to just get this out there and get you thinking about it. You can Google it. You can look this up on AI if you want more information. I find it absolutely fascinating because I've worked with enough women for a long enough time, helped them to find their soulmate. And I sort of realizing as I'm learning about this, looking back on the clients who found their person and are in a healthy relationship, how many times they did that. That's what they were up to. They were centering themselves.